Me too.
In language arts, everyone, we're talking about the book Tinstar. And right now we're on page 140. And in this situation, we left Luke and Marta shearing. Well, Marta has shown herself to be a Pinkerton agent. She's got a real badge. And as you remember last time we talked, it turns out that that badge that Luke had, she said, was fake. So he had it, he still held on to it, but she had the real thing because she was a real Pinkerton agent. And remember, the reason why she's after the Rhodes Gang is because they robbed a train that their people, their agents were on. Two of their agents were killed. So the Pinkerton people said, go get the Rhodes Gang. So since she's been after the Rhodes Gang, and Luke is kind of, I don't say in the way, but she's trying to figure out what to do with the guy now because, after all, she's the real agent. And, of course, Luke's got his reasons for being there, of course. Well, she takes off. She leaves him, throws his badge into the wood, into a bunch of wood, and the wood just throws it away, and he knows where it's at. So he grabs it, and then it says, this is page 140, she touched the brim of her hat with the six-shooter's barrel, then applied her heels to the gelding and galloped off to the northwest, Luke's horse obediently following. He stared after her, that's Luke, stared after her, too many emotions colliding for him to know whether to be furious or to laugh. He settled on cursing under his breath, turning around and putting his boots smack in the footprints she'd left when she threw his Schofield into the night. Oh, yeah, she threw his gun into the woods. That's what he threw it. She threw it in the woods. Anyway, so turning around, he tromped out under the ground until the ground started to turn muddy. Then slowed and finally dropped to hands and knees to search the mud. Yes, he lifted them filthy Model 3 and wiped off as much mud as he could. Finding a stump, he sat and broke open the action. He used his bandana to clean the gun the best he could. It needed oiling, but the nice sperm whale oil he used for that purpose rode off in his saddlebags. She had them, in other words, along with his spare ammunition and everything else that he needed to tackle Benedict and Rhodes. He wiped off his holster and settled the Schofield, then started after Marta shearing. Barely 10 paces on his way, he stopped. I need more than my six-gun, he said, determination filling him again. He returned to the spot where Marta had thrown his bogus badge into the field. It took the better part of an hour to find it. Yeah, he did. She did throw the badge in there. I thought so. But when he did, he wiped it off and tucked it back into his coat pocket. Then it was time to start hiking. Dawn crept upon him. By the time the sun poked above the horizon, he saw a farmhouse. A farmhouse, okay? His nostrils flared when he smelled cooking meat. The family must be ready to eat breakfast after starting their chores. He looked down at his clothing and knew he looked as if he had been pulled through a knothole backyard. There was nothing he could do about the dirty, torn clothing or his lack of belongings. Dusting himself off, he walked, shoulders back and proud, to the farmhouse. Two small girls on the back steps counting eggs they had collected. Good morning, he said, hoping his appearance didn't frighten them. They accepted him as he was. One yelled, Pa, we got a visitor. The other added, he ain't got no horse, but he's got a big iron strap to his hip. Looks to be S&W Model 3. Mumbled words from inside provoked a response from the girl. Nah, he ain't no gunslinger. Just somebody on foot. The girl's paw came to the door. He nodded to the pair that he accepted their appraisal of their visitor. Luke marveled at how clever they were to size him up and how the man trusted them. Morning, sir. Luke wondered what visitors stopped by this war farmhouse. The man filling up the entire door frame with broad shoulders and height topping 6 feet hadn't bothered to fetch a shotgun or a rifle. Top of the morning to you too, Pilgrim. The man eyed Luke from head to toe. You have the look of a man down his luck. That's so? I had my horse and tack stolen, and I've been walking the livelong night. Coming from Crossroads? Luke got a mite antsy at this. Any suggestion of reporting the alleged theft to Marshal Wilkes would land him in a heap of trouble. Marta Shearing had moved on and wasn't in the business of bringing him from jail any longer. I'm on the trail of outlaws, sir. He pulled out the strip of leather with his fake badge fastened to it. It says a Pinkerton man. Pa. It says a Pinkerton man, Pa. The more vocal of the two girls peered at the badge over her younger sister's shoulder, then stared at him. Her cornflower blue eyes never blinked. I'm in the third grade, and I spell real good. I bet you do, Luke said. You really after crooks? She studied him like a bug under a magnifying glass. He felt as if she moved the lens around and focused the sun's rays on him. He got hot under the collar and flushed. I am after the Rhodes gang. They robbed the bank and stole horses from the way station in Castle Preston. Did they now? The farmer stepped down and put hands on the daughter's shoulders. The Tomlinsons were murdered, Luke said, and a youngster and his bride. Beatrice and Tommy? The shocked question came from behind the man in the doorway. A woman with the same piercing blue eyes as the little girl pushed past the mountain of a man onto the steps, a rifle cradled in the crook of her left arm. Her easy familiarity with the weapon warned Luke that she was likely a crack shot. Her husband might not be shooting kind, but she was. The family split their chores up different from usual. Excuse me. But questions got asked and answered, and no one risked their life without being protected. We heard about them. A crying shame it is. The man said, this gang, they stole your horse? That's a long story. Luke said. His belly grumbled loud enough for the two girls to notice a snicker, hiding their mirth behind their hands. Susanna, set a place at the table for this here traveler. If you care to eat, that is. Much obliged, Luke said. He followed the man into the kitchen, and what he saw shouldn't have surprised him, but it did. The man went to the stove and began fixing eggs and frying up a thick slice of ham while his wife rested her rifle against the wall. He didn't hesitate to unbuckle his gun belt and hand it to her. If you'd take care of this, ma'am, I'd be more comfortable while I eat. She gave a curt nod and hung his belt on a peg. Sven is the finest cook in all of Kansas, she said proudly as she took a china plate from a cabinet and let her husband pile on food. With a deft spin, she swung about and put the food in front of Luke. Before he had the chance to ask for silverware, the girls furnished it, along with a glass of cool water pumped from the well in the corner of the kitchen. We owned a restaurant in Fargo before moving south, Sven said. Sven is the best cook west of the Mississippi, his wife boasted. In all the world, too. Pa is from Stockholm. That's in Sweden, the youngest girl said. Her compliment earned her a punch in the arm from her older sister. The two began to squabble and were shooed out by her mother. Luke had trouble remembering his last meal. The food Marta had brought in the jail had only served as a way to get the Derringer into his hands. Before that dinner the night before had been a mess of beans and strip of jerky. Fargo lost a fine cook, Luke said from between mouthfuls. This is about the best I've tasted in ever. Spices, Sven said in a confidential tone. No one on the frontier takes the time to cook. He heaved a sigh, pulled up a chair, and sat across from Luke. Farming is hard work. With 3 women to help, it's easier, but a strong son would be a godsend. He looked at his wife, who worked to clean the family's dishes from their breakfast. A decent plow horse would be better, she said. Luke chased the last bits of meat around the plate and forced himself not to lick off the grease. This would be rude. He pushed the plate away. Susanna snared it and began scrubbing it clean to stack with the others. This horse isn't good for plowing. This horse isn't good for plowing. An ox would be better. If you have a mind and a horse is broken for riding, I'd need a mount. To go after the robbers? Sven eyed him shrewdly. They're also murderers. Luke saw this struck a responsive chord with the woman. She must have known either Beatrice or Tommy. Out there, neighbors had to be close to stand any chance of survival. I cannot give you the horse. I plan to sell him in town and see the money to buy and use the money to buy the ox from Mr. Gottfried. Luke patted his coat where he carried the money from the sale was far into the railroad. The lamps showed gold dust was still sewing in the lining. What's the cost of Mr. Gottfried's ox? Sven shook his head. More than we have, even with selling the plow horse. I will like to buy the horse and what gear you have for $100. Sven's and Suzanne's eyes went wide. Before the man could protest, she said, You have this money? You should check the horse to see what you're buying. Luke had no other option. He either rode or used Shank's mare. His feet already hurt after only a few hours trooping along. More than this, he had to put distance between the crossroads marshal and himself. Even a plow horse added miles to what he did on foot. We can give him the old saddle, the one left here by that traveling sales fellow, and trail rations. How's that sound? Sven looked eager at his wife, dubious. If you cook the food, it's a deal. Luke began opening the seam of his coat to draw out the thin tubes of gold dust. Measuring proved difficult, and he probably paid more than the agreed amount, but he knew the family would put the money to good use, and he had victuals for a king, even if the sway-back horse only plodded along at one slow gait. So he actually has some people ran into who are decent. Finally, a decent and normal experience. Wow. It's a rarity in this book, isn't it? He actually meets a farm family that wants to feed him some food and treat him decent. That's the end of that chapter. Now we're on chapter 12. The plow horse had one speed, the one used to pull the plow. A clop, 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 and rolling gait put Luke to sleep after a few miles. He jerked awake often enough to be sure the sway-backed horse stayed on trail, or the trail Luke thought he followed. Marta Shearing had come this direction. That was all the information he had, other than a brief look at Marshall Hargrove's map, filled with the guesswork and potential hideouts for outlaw gangs. Eyes blurry, he let his chin drop again as the horse soothed him to sleep. When he came awake the next time, his hand flashed to the Schofield at his side. Distant voices alerted him that he wasn't alone on his trail. Whoa! He tugged harder on his reins. The horse refused to stop. It plodded on no matter how he sawed at the bridle. Rather than blunder ahead into an ambush, though, about how the two arguing men had any chance of laying an ambush for any man with the hearing better than using an ear trumpet was hard to say. He jumped to the ground. In other words, he could hear them arguing or talking, so why would they be ambushing him? He figured if they're going to ambush, they'd be very quiet. So he's hearing a lot of loud conversation, so he's figuring to himself they're probably not going to ambush him. So, anyway, as I said there, rather than blunder ahead into an ambush, though how the two arguing men had any chance of laying an ambush for any man with hearing better than using an ear trumpet was hard to say. He jumped to the ground. The horse turned and stared at him, but it stopped. The draft animal was used to obeying commands issued from behind it, not from its back. Luke led it off the trail he followed and down into a gully where a sluggish stream followed. While the horse drank its fill, Luke crept forward and found a spot behind some black chokeberry bushes. Using a twig, he pushed aside a branch and got a better look at two men crouched beside a small fire where they boiled coffee. There, gear spread around them in wild disarray. There, gear spread around them in wild disarray. If they plotted an ambush, they were careless doing it. When the wind changed and he caught a whiff of their witch's brew, he almost gagged. How any human drank much vile-smelling coffee was a tribute to cast-iron bellies. The men downed the contents of their tin cups, then began matching pennies. It took a few minutes until one accused the other of cheating. This sparked a shouting match between them. From all he saw, arguing was all the men did. But something put him on guard. As one of them half turned, he exposed a low-slung six-shooter. The holster was tied down with a rawhide strap. The wood grip showed wear. If Luke had been closer, he'd have let there be notches carved into the pistol grip. This one looked the world like a gunslinger. A rabbit exploded from hiding not 10 feet. A rabbit exploded from hiding. In other words, there was a rabbit there. Exploded from hiding not 10 feet from the men. The second gunman came to a crouch, drew and fired so fast that Luke hardly saw a blur. Even more impressive, the shot caught the rabbit just above his shoulder. It let out a high-pitched screech as air gusted from its lungs, kicked once, and then flopped over dead. "We got ourselves lunch," the shooter said. He lifted the muzzle and blew the smoke away. "I shot it. You can skin it and cook it. There's not enough meat on the bones for two of us. You expected me to kill two rabbits with one shot? I'm good, but not that good." The pair continued their petty disputation. Luke backed off, then hurried to his horse, still drinking noisily from the muddy stream. It took considerable tugging to get the horse away. If it had drank any more, I would have started to bloat. Enough problems piled up around him without having to wait for the bloat to go down. With the luck he's had so far, the horse would develop colic and die. He was afraid his horse was not going to have any success. He was already drinking too much water, and he was afraid, oh my God, my luck, he's going to fall over and die. He tried to figure out how to circle the two gunmen and get back to finding Rhodes' and his gang, but this section of land was flatter than the hilly area he had just ridden through. Sitting and thinking got him nowhere. He needed a decent map to pull off the run around the two men. Since he hadn't seen their hoofprints along the soft dirt of the trail he followed, they were coming toward him. If he waited long enough, they'd ride past him and never be any wiser that he was here. But they argued endlessly over fixing lunch. That meant another hour to fidget and hope. "Howdy, mister," Luke jerked upright. Both gunmen stood a few yards away, hands resting on the butts of their well-used weapons. They had sneaked up on him while he was daydreaming about avoiding him. Oh boy, new gunman to deal with. Ain't that fun? So he leaves the farmhouse with some nice, normal people who feed him some good food and give him some food to go, give him a horse, he buys a horse. And now, once again, he's dealing with men who are ready to shoot him before saying anything to him. Oh well, seems like Luke has got one adventure after another, and we're ending this right now. We're going to end right here on page 148. We'll start on 149 next time. Thanks for watching.